Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Decentralized Chain. It's Feroza bringing you the latest news, reviews, and blockchain tech. So today we are going to be catching up with Eric Lifson, who is one of the co-founders of Skrumble Network. It's a project that I reviewed about a year ago. Check out the description above if you want to see that. And we caught up with them about 9 months ago in terms of where they were with their updates. And so today we're just going to get an update in terms of where Skrumble Network is. They've got some pretty exciting news coming up along the way. So let's jump right in and see what Eric had to say. Eric, welcome back to the show. Well, I suppose a long-time visitor. We've had you on quite a few times, and here we are again, actually most probably at the precipice of something amazing, which is obviously your mainnet launch. But before we start talking about that, why don't you just give us a little introduction about who you are and what Skrumble is, just in case someone happens to find this video by accident, which is just bizarre if they do, because you guys have been around for ages, and well, people should know about Skrumble, really. But for those who don't know, tell us, what is Skrumble and who are you, Eric?
Okay, cool. So thank you so much for having me on again.
Anytime.
So Skrumble Network is one of the leading, communication-focused blockchain projects in the world. We are currently under a data security apocalypse. We've seen, we're now in a situation where a lot of communication companies have more power than many governments. And we're seeing people start to abuse their power. So you have, for example, Facebook. I'm sure you heard there was 80-something million accounts that were compromised. Your data is all over the place. Telegram had 70 million different accounts that were compromised. You go to countries like Russia or China, where let's say there's WeChat. WeChat has 900 million users, and you start to hear crazy stories that like the government is actively watching what you're saying, and you say something about Xi Jinping, or you say something about even blockchain or ICOs or anything like this, and they're shutting you down. And we have a huge, actually a WeChat community, and all of our content was taken down because obviously we found other ways to get around it, but they're watching, and they're watching exactly what you're saying. And so when we think about we believe like some of the foundational freedoms of humanity should be freedom of speech and freedom of communication and freedom of data, and that should enable people to do great things. And when those kind of things are blocked, that's a problem. And we look at, for example, Bitcoin. So Bitcoin was created because people lost trust in the system. So in around 2008, 2009, when there was a global economic crash, because of these kind of centralized organizations that were controlling the data and saying you have to go through us to do financial transactions. All of a sudden there's new technology where you can democratize that. And a great example, going back to Bitcoin, is before you needed someone to validate the ledger. So if I'm going to send you $5, let's say, or £5, I guess, I have to ensure that I have that £5 in my wallet or my account, and then it's sent to you, and then you get it. So do we need a centralized group to do that anymore? And with technology, you don't. And that's the beauty of blockchain technology. So we're not here to be like these crazy kind of libertarians that are saying, okay, like we need to take down the the governments and everything like this. But at the end of the day, freedom of speech should be a basic human right. And you look at what's happened with Bitcoin and how that's totally changed the financial world, and we're doing that for the communication world, which, by the way, is $3 trillion. So that's our appeal, and that's the way that we've positioned ourselves. And we were able to create this incredible ecosystem. Now we've definitely set ourselves apart in terms of getting some of the top. I think we had like 15 top VCs behind our project. and we've done 4 global roadshows across, like, let's say 40 cities. And we have also got top tier advisors like Anthony Diorio, who's co-founder of Ethereum, which is crazy because I heard that was the company or organization that made the most millionaires in history, which is a pretty crazy stat. Just a wild thing from here in Toronto, where I live in Toronto. And so we have Jeff Pulver, who started $3 billion Vonage, CTO of Aeon, which is a very great project out of Toronto as well.
Funny you said that. I mean, amongst all your advisors, and I'm not belittling any of the advisors, but I think one of the things that really drew me to your project was when you mentioned Vonage earlier, because you are in the communications business at the end of the day, and when you have an advisor, someone who is part of Vonage, that's actually quite a very bold statement for an advisor to come on board and support a decentralized communication platform as well. And that was one of the things that really drew me in because when I look at advisors at a company, it's great to see that you've got the co-founders of Ethereum. So clearly not everyone's going to want to go ahead and stake their name against a project just for the sake of staking. But actually, when you see advisors who can bring in real world use cases, and certainly Vonage is one of them, because I could easily see Skrumble Network being used as some sort of way within the Vonage ecosystem as well. And likewise, the sort of data being, well, not the data, but the sort of expertise being shared back and forth, both within the communications business, I thought was quite spot on. Definitely one of the things that really drew me in.
And it's really about driving mainstream adoption, right?
Yeah.
And that's something we are working on, some very interesting things I can't announce at this point.
Oh, come on, Eric. You want to. Just say it.
I really want to. But
I'll blank it out.
But you're pretty on point. And there's a few really exciting things that are happening. So, to have those level of advisors and also including 2 very prominent professors, one from University of Toronto, head of blockchain and fintech, and also a professor of economics and accounting at Shanghai University. So we had some pretty cool, and co-founder of Fusion. So pretty cool advisory team. We've got a real team here. There's over 40 people.
Yeah.
And it's backed by a real company called Skrumble Technologies, out of Toronto, and I encourage anyone who's in the city to come by and stop by our office. We actually just moved to a new office, which is after 4 years in a new place. So it's really nice, very modern, fully updated, 12,000 square feet place. That's we're really trying to make it the blockchain center of the country.
Okay.
And as you can imagine, with a city like Toronto, blockchain is really big here.
Yeah.
So that's a big opportunity. It's outpacing Silicon Valley here. It's pretty cool.
Well, I mean, I suppose to the viewers, stop by the office, free coffee, right? So
100%.
Exactly. So Eric, let's talk a bit more about where we are with Scrumbles. I mean, so Skrumble Network, as I recall, the sort of ICO was back in 2018, right?
Yep.
And so we've come a long way since then. You're definitely not a white paper project, and that kind of segues into my next piece. You've recently had the MainNET launch, so you've got your own blockchain. Tell us a bit about that. What does that mean, really? Your MainNet's launch. So what? Tell me.
That's a good question. So a few key things. Number one is that we launched last year. I think our ICO sold out in 1 hour, and we landed on a few exchanges, and we launched our first. So I'll tell you about Ally later, but that was the first DAPP that was released.
Okay.
And the mainnet was also launched recently. So the mainnet is quite exciting. We're at about 4-second block times, and the design behind our mainnet and our infrastructure is different than, let's say, some of the other or most of the other blockchains out there, in that it's a POA model, proof of authority. And so what that means is it's a staking model, proof of staking, but you stake the different nodes, or we call them grandmaster nodes, that are kind of the service provider, right? So these different grandmaster nodes around the world provide the service, and you stake the tokens to ensure the quality. Now, these grandmaster nodes, we have currently running centralized, but we will be announcing very soon the ability for people to stake on those and provide KYC. They have to provide KYC, the service providers, so that we can ensure the quality of the service.
Got it.
But once that's done, we're going to be able to really launch it out in a very big way. So we did launch the MainNET. It's pretty exciting, and the core here is, if you want to deal with communication, if I want to contact you, we've been conditioned, whether you're using WhatsApp or Zoom or you're using whatever, you need to be able to push a button and contact someone immediately. And for example, with Ethereum, if I send you $1 million using Ethereum, however many Ether that is, you'll wait a minute, it's fine. But if you want to connect right now, that's too long. And so you need a dedicated, very strategic network that is designed for speed and designed for communication, right? Jumping on a call, jumping on a video, jumping on things like that, where and eventually streaming as well. So that's really what this is about, and being able to take that technology and bring it into many different business use cases that are real and real verticals.
It's interesting you say that, because I think one thing some viewers need to bear in mind, and back in sort of 2017 and 2018, it was always about how many TPS a blockchain can push out, and really it's not about TPS here whatsoever. It's a blockchain for secure private communication, really, more than anything else. It's not a means for, I would say, transacting on a business level when there's sort of currency involved, but it's actually around private communication. I think it's key that people see that, because some people might think,
what's cool about it is that it also does transactions as well, right? So we'll get into Ally, but that also already supports exchange of multiple tokens, right? So but we'll get into that later.
I suppose let's touch on this. So you mentioned you have Ally as your first DAPP. So I suppose before we kind of talk in depth about that, because that is very important part of your roadmap overall, but let's talk about the DAPP ecosystem. So obviously you've got one which is specifically built and powered by the Skrumble Network, Skrumble Network's very own blockchain. But what about others who want to also build on your blockchain? Is there a means? Is there anything available?
Quietly, there's been a few really exciting teams starting to build on our blockchain. And one of the things that our philosophy, especially mine, is that I just believe that there's too much hype and too much talk in this market. And it's really about driving real life adoption and real life business. I just can't tell you how many we've been on all these world tours, we've seen a lot of stuff. There's just too many scams out there, right? And we've seen a team, for example, I'm not going to name any names, that announced that they bought a BMW, and then they announced a partnership with BMW, and the token goes up crazy. Sure, that might work in 2017, that's fine, but we're in 2019, we're in 2020 coming up, and we need to bring real value and real utility and stuff like that. So we're really focused on actual real world usage, and which is crazy that I need to explain that. But we look at different ways to bring that secure communication and blockchain communication to the masses in different use cases, and many different teams are starting to build on that chain, and we're going to start to see some pretty exciting announcements come up, and everything has to be really, really focused. We ask to see the project before they work on it, and we give them access to our mainnet, but we want to make sure that they're real and that they're actually going to do something with it.
Yeah, no, it's key. I think you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said it. It is all about mainstream adoption. There are loads of projects out there, some quite extraordinary in terms of their vision and their goals. But until we genuinely start seeing mainstream adoption, and it's not just of the blocks of the blockchain itself, but mainstream adoption of a DApp that's used in everyday life in order to, whether it's transact or communicate. I think that's where it really starts picking off. Because you're right. I mean, we're in 2019 now. There have been a lot of projects. They've released a lot of their mainnets. A lot of mainnets have launched this year actually. And I think the next step here is now great. Your mainnet's out there, but what have you built on there that's going to give us real world use case value and mainstream adoption? I think that's that's
and
the
it
next
seems
stage.
like a very crazy concept, but
Yeah.
it's not, right? Like, I'm sorry, but like just having a lot of TPS and hype and things like that,
No.
it doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't do anything.
Right?
No, you're right. It doesn't. It doesn't. It's great you can push it through, but what are you going to use to push all that through? What do you have on top, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So we have some very exciting DApps that some teams are going to be launching in the near future, over the year, the next 1 year at least, and really exciting ones. One includes a business-to-business version that's really, really cool, and there's several more as well. One I'm going to talk about now is called Ally. So Ally is the current DApp that's available on Skrumble Network, and there's going to be some very exciting things that are coming for people who hold the SKM token. So, going back to the ecosystem, we see this as people who support the ecosystem should be rewarded. And so what we're devising right now is a structure where people get rewarded with the different DApps. As the different DApps come out, they get rewarded based on their loyalty and based on how much they're holding of those tokens, right? So that's going to be something that we're going to be announcing in the near future. And then going back to Ally, Ally has 150,000 users, and compared to most projects that don't have even any applications on their mainnet, it's just mainnet, hype, and then see you later. We actually have delivered that. One of the top DApps in the world of real users, and our goal is to hit at least 2 million by middle or end of this year, and real users and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And on Ally, it's kind of like WeChat or WhatsApp on the blockchain. So you have, you can message people securely. You control what happens to it. So, there's no centralized server. So it connects people using the blockchain, using authentication, and identity management, and then everyone has a wallet built into the application. So you can send SKM, and we'll be supporting other tokens in the near future. And it's not like, hey, what's your wallet address? It's press, click, and send, and the in context transfer. So it's pretty cool. And we've got a lot of other stuff. So we're adding a publishing feature so that people are going to be able to have premium groups. So if you join a group on Ally, you can charge people whatever you want in SKM on a monthly basis, on a daily basis, just to enter, things like that. And so focusing on some of the influencers that don't have the ability to, let's say, speak freely about whatever they want. And we're seeing just some incredible stuff. Like, obviously I can't see like the one-to-one chats because it is secure and private. But in the groups, we're seeing a lot of like really cool conversations. So I like to be in a lot of the groups and see what people are talking about. And they're talking about politics or gay and lesbian rights, or they're talking about comic books or sports or whatever they want to talk about.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Everyday people, right? So which is
everyday people. But you can meet people from around the world, talk to people, and discover new things. So I definitely encourage anyone to go and download Ally. Type in Ally, ALLY, on either iOS or Android. We also have an APK on getally.io, so you can just download it from anywhere.
Okay.
And it's pretty cool. So check it out. And that's a real world project and technology and things that actual people are using on blockchain, which is a crazy concept.
There you go. So details in the description below, folks, if you want to find out where to go and download that as well. So interesting. So there's also been a bit of news that I've kind of been monitoring here and there. You've got an alliance with GAX STO Exchange, or GAX STO Exchange. What does that mean? I mean, we see a lot of, I suppose, posts, tweets from various projects, right? This person's got an alliance with so and so, and just like you mentioned before earlier, so and so with BMW's partnered up. What does this alliance really mean for you guys? What does it mean from a community perspective?
So I can't go into too many details. Okay. But what I can say is that SKM holders will get great benefits from this. Okay. In the future. STOs are a huge part of what's happening in the blockchain world. We see it as definitely a big part of the future. Yep. And the alliance with GAX is going to be huge. There's some very, very big things in the works of that. And it's not like we don't do like alliances or partnerships. We're just like, everyone's just like, I partnered with this one, I partnered with this one. Yeah,
no. Ride the hype train and all of that, and watch the pumps and dubs.
We don't even care. We don't even care if it helps in the short term. Long term, we're all about building real value. Okay. And so we feel like that's going to really, really push the needle for the Skrumble Network project and for helping with the ecosystem. Now, that's all I can say. But it's going to be like, just to put it in perspective, the GAX team launched the announcement of GAX, and they had 140 million media impressions in one day. Okay, it's big. So it's pretty big.
So talking about impressions and communities, so I'm hearing that there's also a community launch that you've got sort of within sort of the Korean space as well. So what's that about? I mean, that's clearly. I mean, I know certainly when you look east towards the globe, that is a very big location in terms of adoption, in terms of user base as well. So I'm interested. What's happening there, Eric?
Sure. So good question. I was actually in Korea 3 or 4 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. It's and last year I spoke at Token Sky with like 5,000 people, and Korea is definitely one of the big hubs and like central places for blockchain and blockchain adoption. What's really cool actually is that they have cafes, so you can. I was featured at speaking at an event, and it's like at a blockchain cafe. It was really cool. Like, I don't know about where you're from and stuff, but even in Canada or things like that, you walk down the street and like blockchain's kind of like up in the buildings and like hush hush, like in some of the boardrooms, where or when you're talking about things like this, but seeing it on the street level is pretty cool. And everyone's just out there. You can buy coffee, you can do whatever, like with the different crypto. It's cool.
No, so I can't say I've seen that in the UK as much. I mean, when we talk about meetups, we've got like a website, I think it's called meetup.com, and then you usually get a lot of the sort of blockchain folks in that space, organizing meetups for various projects, getting people in to talk. But certainly not on. I personally haven't seen it in London myself on that level.
A dedicated cafe for blockchain. It's cool. If you're in Korea, check it out. It's called Decenter, Decentre, DECENTRE. Cafe. Okay. Pretty cool. You got a few of them around, so it's pretty cool. Anyways, but so we see Korea as an important part of the ecosystem globally, and we launched a Korean community. I think we have like 1,500, I forget, people in our Korean Telegram group. We launched on Hobby Korea, which is pretty cool as well, and working on some other exciting things there. Can't say anything yet. But,
we're clearly going to have a follow-up, Eric.
So definitely some cool interest from Korea.
Okay. Now, you mentioned Grand Masternodes earlier, and usually when people mention masternodes, there's like dollar signs going off everywhere. Clearly, there's an opportunity for members of the community to support the network and also get rewarded for the network as well. Now, how can you release any details or talk to us a bit more about how does one become a Grand Masternode?
Yeah, so we can't announce at this point, but we are looking to do that in the next week or so.
Okay.
Exactly what's going to be required. We currently have 88 masternodes, and before the mainnet launches, obviously those are, and we've been transparent about this, placeholders.
Yes.
So people can reserve their spots, and they help with validating the contract. They're gonna have voting rights. They're gonna have things like that. Whereas the grand masternodes, Willie will be running the network.
Yeah.
And so, that's going to be a really exciting. We've got incredible demand already for it, but that's going to be a really exciting thing that, once we announce it, I think there's going to be a lot of excitement and people wanting to really take part in that and own it. And we've got some pretty exciting ways that we're going to be going about that. So stay tuned.
Okay. Well, Eric, as always, absolute pleasure to talk to you. And there's always lots of great stuff that comes out of Skrumble Network whenever we have our catch-ups. And I feel like I've gone through a list of a load of things that I've sort of been monitoring around the site. So before we wrap up, how does one stay up to date? How do we know more about the alliance with GAX Exchange? How do we know more about the Grand Masternodes that are coming out? How do we know more about your ecosystem? Where do people need to go in order to stay tuned and updated?
That's a great question. So definitely you want to check out www.skrumble.network, and you want to check out the Telegram group. I think it's called Skrumble Network Chat.
Okay.
And all links will be provided, obviously.
Yep, of course.
The one place you want to be checking out is Ally, and join the over 150,000 people that have really discovered the power of freedom of communication and really where the industry is going.
Excellent. Well, Eric, all the best with the sort of news you've got coming out. That's been quite hush-hush, but clearly, hopefully, would have piqued a lot of interest with the viewers. And I'll certainly be keeping a keen eye. And hey, man, as always, let's catch up again in a month's time to see how everything's doing. Eric, appreciate the time.
Cheers, man.
Cheers,
Thank you
man.
so much.
Speak to you later.